I believe that we are truly and already in a civil war. And I believe that the circumstances that are pushing this, the circumstances that are causing this, are so alien to the vast majority of Americans, and that is part of the big problem with what is going on. And I bring this up because there's two events that I've lived through in recent history that have shown the utter dehumanization that is going on in America to a degree that I don't think I've ever seen before. The dehumanization of the other, the dehumanization of their own countrymen, the dehumanization of simple people, and the isolation and radicalization of people on the internet fueling this to its extreme. And these two events were the California wildfires, California Oregon wildfires, and the Texas blizzard that's going on right now. To where I have seen people say that people in these states deserve what's happening to them because of their politics. I've seen people say about Texas, oh, well, that's what you get for not sending aid to Puerto Rico. That's what you get for living in a red state. Oh, you keep voting conservative, so that's what you get what you deserve. And it was the same thing with California and Oregon, where it's like, well, you're just a bunch of shithead liberal states, so enjoy the consequences of your policy. LOL, vote better. And it's insane because the people just don't even realize that is war logic. That is military logic. I said on Twitter, to where I considered it very similar to the firebombing of Tokyo, that the message and the pain and the suffering dealt to innocent people, to non-political people, people that have no power and no participation and no interest in what is going on, is worth it because they are the opposition. And that is fucking horrifying that people are to this point. Because there's something that people on Twitter and people on the internet and people in the political sphere in general need to understand. And that is 2/3 of America do not give a fuck about politics. And 1/3 of them don't even participate to any degree. If you look at some of the most popular political videos, they get like maybe 1 million views, tops, if it's on a particularly hot issue. If you go to a nail channel, if you go to clothing, video games, they'll pull 20 million views, 50 million views. Music will pull millions and millions of views because there is more people in this country that do not give a fuck about any of this than the people that do. That we all in the political world operate in such smaller bubbles than we realize, and that if I took just a random American citizen out of the world and sat them down in a room with a libertarian, a socialist, a Marxist, and an anarchist, and like a neoconservative, 90% of the language we would use, not even the topics we're talking about, just the words we use to describe things, they would have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. We would sound like aliens to them. And people don't realize this. That if I just went to a small town in America, whether it be Republican or Democrat, and threw them on Twitter into like a particular political circle, doesn't matter. Could be a Marxist circle, could be a libertarian circle, whatever. They'd have no idea what the fuck you're talking about just from your language, let alone on the issues, because the average person is not involved. So when I see that it's gotten to the point where it's not even, because before, it was more specific, where people, everything's the Democrats' fault, or everything's the Republicans' fault, or everything's Antifa's fault, or the Proud Boys' fault. Those are groups, and participation and membership in those groups is something people do voluntary. So while I think that's fucked up on its own, that's at least a little more understandable in terms of laying blame. But now it's gotten to the point where people that don't even participate in the political process and have never done anything to hurt anyone are being cheered on as they freeze to death, as they burn to death, as they lose their jobs, as they lose their homes, as they lose their businesses. It's insane. And during the entire lockdown, this dehumanization has just rapidly increased, where people are willing to kill each other over fucking masks, where people are telling small business owners that have received no federal funding whatsoever, no state funding whatsoever, telling them just suck it up and go work at Walmart. When people are snitching on each other, what the fuck? I laugh because it's so goddamn absurd. And we've hit to this point, and there's no brakes on this train. People so often are like, oh, you're a boogaloo boy. You want civil war. You're trying to accelerate civil war. Y'all are already fighting a civil war with each other. These teams are bloodthirsty. They want each other to die. They want them to conform, or they want them to go away. I cannot articulate to them how an average person who doesn't watch the news and isn't on Twitter, they just watch sports or like knit and don't mind their own business and go to work, that they have no idea what's going on until there's riots outside, until their power gets shut off, until the police are banging on their door. They don't pay attention. And the scariest part about people like that is they react in one of two ways, which we're seeing both happen right now. They either go from the most moderate apolitical people in the world to extraordinarily radicalized and dangerous and reactionary and violent, which we've seen at all of the riots this summer, which we saw at the Capitol, which we have seen more and more as time goes on. And this summer, I expect it to be much worse. Or they immediately bow down and try to find a dictator to solve all their problems. And that's what I say to both Republicans and Democrats. If you thought Trump is bad, if you thought Biden is bad, wait till what comes next. Wait till the next person that gets fucking elected. You think either of these people are essentially Hitler, which I see the right and the left call either Trump or Biden like fascist or totalitarian? Wait till the next guy. Because it's going to fucking horrify you. And it's coming. And that's why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do in the Boogaloo movement and everything that's going on, is to wake people up to be like, we're going downhill. The brakes have already fallen off the car. The best we could probably do at this point is jump off together. Otherwise, we're going to crash and burn, all of us. And people are still so tribalistic that even in my comment about like, hey, look how fucking dehumanizing it is that you got these liberals cheering on Texas freezing to death. People are still like, well, it's socialism or barbarism. Or it's like, well, that's what the blue states get for treating us so shittily. Or it's just like, you don't understand that you're buying into this? That you are deep-throating this logic? Politics is a fucking illusion to the vast majority of people, period. It doesn't exist to the vast majority of people. They don't care about what you care about. They're not reading Marx. They're not reading Lysander Spooner. They're not watching Fox News. They're not watching CNN. They don't follow Bernie Sanders on Twitter. They're not a big Ted Cruz fan. They couldn't tell you who their local fucking mayor is, or who the Secretary of State is, or even who the vice president is in some fucking extreme cases. They do not give a fuck about your world, but they are suffering, and they are angry, and they do not care about your political slap fights. They do not care about capitalism versus socialism. They want to be safe, they want to be healthy, and they want to feel comforted by what is going on, and they don't. And those people will not be on anyone's side if shit goes sideways, and it will continue to go sideways. There was a National Geographic documentary about what would happen if there was a nationwide power outage, and they predicted, all these experts, that within 2 weeks, people will start fucking eating each other. And they won't care if you're a Republican or a socialist or a Marxist or a Leninist or any little fucking label you want to put on yourself. When things go down, if you do not build a community within your 50-mile bubble of people that will take care of each other, you will eat each other. And all of your little petty political divisions that you've built up over these last 8 years and all these little Twitter wars and all this stupid bullshit that doesn't matter, that will be the last thing in your mind. So get local and get your people together and stop fighting over petty differences that don't matter, because this shitstorm is coming whether you like it or not, and none of your utopias are going to happen if it comes to pass.